Hey guys, it's Mathil here once again, and I wanted to give you the follow-up video for the Ice Spear Totems, which was one of the starter builds I recommended, and it still very much can be. Like I mentioned, it's probably just going to be a bit more on the Stormbrand and Arc side of things until Ice Spears actually feel good at around about level 38 to 60 once you grab the right Ascendancy, the right gear slots and all of that, and then Ice Spear Totems actually become a pretty magical thing. As you can see in the videos and the clips here, you shoot out lots and lots of what essentially look like lasers. And up to this point, the character has cleared everything in the game, including Uber Elder, on roughly 1 Exalt worth of budget. So the version you are seeing here and that I'm playing with my character is extremely budget. I didn't go for any of the super expensive stuff or the min-maxing, and I will show you and talk to you about that just a little bit later, about how you can push the build to the next level. But this one was fairly budget, and the idea was to try and finish everything on this sort of a budget, just to prove what can and can't be done. So as I mentioned, I did also kill Uber Elder, died once, and you'll see that in the clip at the end of the video, and that does mean that our single target is pretty damn respectable, considering I'm just wearing a tabular here, and nothing terribly expensive at all. The actual real just highlight of the build is the single target. The clear is nothing too special. You do have to get some pierce from the Deadeye Ascendancy and a couple of gear slots to make the clear feel decent enough, but you can also go a Snakepit route, which I'll show you in just a minute as well, where instead of piercing, you just go pure chain, and it becomes a bit more Arc-like in that your totems don't necessarily have to be placed particularly well, and you just like start chaining everywhere. And that also does free up your entire Deadeye Ascendancy slot to be something else, or it means you can play Hierophant altogether instead of going Scion, maybe even just some other Ascendancy like a Cultist, whatever the hell you want. So with the use of the Snakepit, you can probably do just about any Ascendancy and really have a much looser build style. But the point is, you do need some sort of pierce chain or fork for these things to feel good. If you don't have any of that, then your Ice Spear Totems will just hit a basically brick wall when they're hitting things, and your clear won't be very nice at all. But you can see the single target is definitely there, and the playstyle is pretty active because you have to throw out so many things, so many totems, traps, Stormbrands, frost bombs, whatever. So this is a demo of the Snakepit. If you wear it in your right ring slot, you get chain and no pierce anymore, and that does increase your clear speed just a little bit, I think. I tried it out for a map or two, and for me it didn't feel too much different for my playstyle for the pierce side of things, because I'm pretty used to the piercing side already. I have done it for quite a while, and I'm very used to my playstyle, but I think it is a smoother and overall easier playstyle using the chain as opposed to the pierce. So a Snakepit is a very viable option to take this build to a slightly different direction and perhaps another level altogether. But what we're really here for in these Ice Spear Totems is the single target. So the single target can end up being really meaty if you have the right setup. So an Elder here, this is a tier 12 red Elder, gets completely shredded if you have the right setup, like I said. So if you drop your Frost Bomb, if you get your Stormbrand on there, if you throw a Lightning Trap and get Elemental Equilibrium up, and then especially if you can pop your Val Righteous Fire and your Val Lightning Trap as well, you'll have some extremely nice single target. We're talking something like 2 million, 3 million Shaper DPS with everything lined up at once. So I did manage to do just about every Guardian. I think I did every Guardian, both tier 16 and Elder Guardian deathless, though I did do some really nasty ones that caused me a few deaths too. But overall, I could comfortably go through doing Guardian maps while still trying to level and getting XP. And this is all on a very tight and low budget. And overall, I'd say the Ice Spear Totems were doing better single target than Arc, but obviously much worse clear. So if you're really into the clear side of things with your totems, then Arc is still going to be the way to go. But for the single target, Ice Spear Totems were a very formidable foe. And in this build, you can actually just clear with Arc Totems if you really want, and then sub in Ice Spear for the pure end game for the bosses as well. But I just did pure Ice Spear because I think it looks a lot cooler and feels a bit fresher than just playing Arc for the millionth time. So you can see very respectable damage, kind of squishy because I've got like, what, 4.2k life and 1.6k mana, so it's almost 6k effective HP, but it's a tabular, so you don't really have any inherent defense there. So before I show you the Uber Elder clip, I just want to go over the character real quick with the options to min-max. So to sum up the character here, I am now level 93, and it did take 1 day, 13 hours, so about 36 hours to get to this point. Trying to do as much of my Atlas as possible, so I got to about 140 out of 159, cleared Shaper, cleared all the Guardians, then cleared Uber Elder, so it was a bit of a grind to get through the whole Quest and Atlas system, but eventually got to Uber Elder and killed him on a fairly budget character. As I mentioned, it's about 1x total to put this character together for me. The tabular here we're using has +2 proj, cost me 27c, shouldn't be too hard to get, but you can just use a tabular otherwise. Or once you start going into endgame options, you can run a Shaper chest, I think would be the best option, with some life, some mana, some defense, and then +1 to your main item, or gem rather, the Ice Spear. So we have here Ice Spear at level 20, you can grab a level 21 Ice Spear for not very much currency either, and then all of a sudden get a bit more damage there too. Now we're currently running Spell Totem, GMP, Multi-Totem, Hypothermia, and Controlled Destruction. So with GMP, I currently have 9 projectiles. When you take that out, we're sitting at 5. When you're going for the absolute min-max of the build, you try and get more projectiles, and that makes GMP less worth doing. And eventually you chuck in something like Cold Pen or whatever else you want instead. That means you're no longer getting that less multiplier, and you're just getting this huge extra damage multiplier from a Cold Pen. So what you're getting is a +1 projectile on Helm Enchant. That's not too hard to get. You can get a Dying Sun for another 2 projectiles, and all of a sudden you're at 8 projectiles as opposed to 9, and you've cut out that entire huge less multiplier there and instead got the Cold Pen. So that's going to be a huge upgrade if you want to go that way. You can also grab get rid of one of your wands here and put on a shield, and then craft +1 totem. So instead of 5 totems, you'll be summoning 6, and that is another huge upgrade. You know, let's say something like 20% there. So, but you'll lose just a little bit of damage off the wand, because the wand's going to give you just slightly more damage than a shield can. Though you can get a shield with some cast speed, cold damage, and life, then craft that additional summon totem, and it should be pretty beefy. Now, a lot of these things will let you actually get rid of the entire Deadeye Ascendancy over here, and if you then run a Snakepit, you're not at all reliant on Projectile Pierce, and you can go pure Chain instead. That means that the Hierophant Ascendancy is basically the only reason you're doing Scion, or you can start grabbing something like Elementalist instead, entirely up to you, but it does mean, I think, that you can get a bit more flexible with your ascendancies. You can run full-blown Occultist if you like, you can go Inquisitor if you like, and that probably opens you up to a lot more damage, or just Hierophant and then get even more totems summoned with a bunch more damage per totems, and that's probably going to be a superior setup at this point. If you go pure Hierophant, get more damage per totem with 6 totems, and at that point running a Snakepit as well. The min-max on this build can be pretty big. I think currently I have about 300k per totem Shaper damage, if you're not factoring in Vile Righteous Fire or my Lightning Trap Elemental Equilibrium with this, about 300k. I think that could be double with the right amount of min-max, and I already had more than enough damage for everything I did. So it's a pretty beefy setup, the old Ice Spear totems, and it's just going to give so much more single target, I think, than Arc Totems, but it's going to be a bit jankier on the clear, so be careful of that. Just another option for totems if you really want to go down this route. So I hope you guys enjoyed the Ice Spear totem build. I'm going to leave you with the Uber Elder clip, which was my first one for the league on a fairly big budget, so it wasn't the easiest, but it went down easy enough, I think, and I'm pretty happy with how it went. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and see you next time. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, that's not even worth doing. I don't like this flask either. I want a regen one, not just pure instant. So I think this is going to be my biggest problem. Life regen's really tough.
Rot, spoil, and fester. Okay, I gotta throw traps as well. Gotta remember to do that. It's quite a lot of damage to be throwing traps. Oh god. He shoots the totems sometimes. That's so not good. Ah, there's a big lag spike there. I accidentally killed a propagator in the midst of all of that. So that's good. I am lag spiking bad though at the moment. Okay. Yeah, I really can't get hit much. That's kind of a problem. I can take the hits, but the problem is I can't regen. So I'm like pretty much dependent on my flasks doing things. Oh no, fuck no. I might be dead here. Oh, that was a bad one. Really? Elder's still not dead? Okay, there we go. Thank fuck! That took way too long. I'm gonna get rid of these balls. They've been chasing me for too long. Oh god, where the fuck did he go?
Can I not have but a moment's respect?
No! Almost hardcore viable. Technically, they died. Before I died? Are we allowed to say that? So, yeah, Liz? I died first? I don't know, man. My totems are an extension of me. And they didn't die until the bosses died. So if you want to get technical, I was still alive well before.